Football, friendship, and great stories. Conversations about the business of football and inside stories you don't hear on the mainstream media. The Director of Football Show. Dear listeners, dear viewers, welcome back to another episode of the Director of Football Show. First of all, my apologies that we've not been around for the last couple of weeks, months actually. I recently became a dad. We moved houses as well. It has been a quite turbulent period. For 2024, we will trying to bring back the show monthly again. Again, I do apologize. Please note that this episode was recorded on the 8th of July, 2023. The following is a conversation with Ivan Kepcija. Ivan was the director of football at Legia Warsaw and Hajduk Split, and worked in various roles at Hibernians and Brentford. He was the co-author of the Croatian Football Federation curriculum. Ivan is also a holder of a double master degree and the UEFA Pro license. At the moment, Ivan is a consultant for Backa Topola in the Serbian top league and author of the Sporting Director course for Real Madrid. Welcome to the Director of Football Show. I am your host Vitas Malas, and now, dear friends, here is Ivan Kepcija. You have been a youth coach for 12, 15 years, if I'm not wrong. You're the co-author of the Croatian football curriculum. And in 2017, at the age of 35, your first job as a sporting director is at Legia Warsaw. I mean, wow. One of the top clubs in Europe with one of the biggest fan bases in the world. And now you're also writing the Real Madrid Director of Football course. I mean, whoa. My question then is, who is Ivan Kepcija? And tell us please about your journey as a sporting director slash football executive.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you for reconnecting. I mean, it's been a long time since we first had our first chat when I was in Hajduk, and I'm happy to see you grow in your journey. Happy to be here and share some of my professional experiences that have enriched my path and what has football really given me. I have, to be honest, if you told me 20 years ago, today you will be here, would have been a Dinamo Zagreb, Hajduk Split, uh, Legia. I worked for Brentford as well, Hibs in Scotland. I would say it's an impossible that anything like that would happen. But I was just looking ahead. I was looking to learn, looking to grow and develop myself, and some opportunities opened up that led my career and gave me all these experiences on this journey that I'm appreciative of. So thanks for inviting me, and I hopefully that in this conversation we can share some things that could be interesting to people, or give them an insight onto how they could build their own path and their own skill set and some other things that are necessary to succeed in this industry.
Thank you so much. So please tell us about your journey, from starting from obviously from my research, and obviously we spoke to each other before, starting as a coach, and then you end up in a club like Legia Warsaw. I mean, Legia Warsaw is, for me, one of the maybe top 50 teams in European football. Big history, biggest
Yeah,
club in Poland. I think it's a very underestimated league. They have probably one of the biggest fan bases in the world, comparable with clubs like Boca Juniors or
yeah,
Celta.
yeah, correct.
I mean, how do you end up there as a first job at the age of 35? That's for me like, wow,
Um,
impossible almost.
I understand. Yeah, impossible happens, right? Sometimes it is like that. Um, I attribute it to like a hand of God event, type of thing in your life that after so many years of working and you meet with people, you learn from them, you grow, you build your experiences, and somebody recognizes that you're ready for the next step. And that has not been, I would say, the first moment that it happened in my life, because I started very humbly. In 2002 and 3, I was still a student. I was studying business and economics. I finished my playing career in semi-pro level in Croatia, and I got an opportunity to go to the US, where I got a soccer scholarship. So I had that as part of my journey, and I spent nine years subsequently there, getting my bachelor's and my master's degrees. I kind of did a career shift from business into sports science and sports psychology, which I was passionate about. I did my UFAB course in 2002, and it kind of ignited me that this is the path that I want to pursue. And to be honest, at that time, I was just thinking, okay, you're going to be a coach of some youth team here in Poreć, where I'm from, small coastal town in Croatia. And after your daily job, this is what you're going to be enjoying staying in football. And I never imagined that it would take me further. But um, I was just exploring opportunities to learn, and some formal education presented itself through the licenses, some through the master's degree in sports science that I got in California, and I continued on that journey as a youth coach. And one thing leads to another. I used to be a coach, and then I trying to be the best possible coach that I can for the kids that I'm working with, and I stumble upon the concept of having a multi-year curriculum and how that is actually better for my players. That I respect some of the findings of some people smarter than myself, and as a young coach, I was just listening to a bunch of information from all over, presentations, podcasts, documentaries, books, research papers that I could get my hands on that are in football, just to improve myself. So that was the whole drive. The whole drive was, how do I become a better professional, and I can serve the people that I'm with. And then just opportunities present itself. So I was a assistant coach in a college for 3 years where I used to play, and then another 4 years I was a head coach at Holy Names University. That was a very valuable learning experience because it gave me an opportunity to experiment in quite a safe environment with good players, good infrastructure, good facilities, good setup, and gave me an opportunity to, as a coach, to explore a lot of things. At the same time, I was coaching youth in local clubs, and then an opportunity arose to become a director of a club in San Ramon. So I did that for 3 years, and during those years, I was also, cooperating with Dinamo Zagreb, with Fiorentina. I took travels around the world to different conferences. I presented at a conference in Ghent, Belgium, and World Conference in Science and Soccer. A research paper that I did that was based in sports psychology and tied to my master's program. So, I was really investing myself in my own growth and development. And I guess during that time, you meet people who say, "Oh, look at this guy. He's kind of crazy how passionate he is, and let's see whether we can do something together and explore it." So, 3 times I was fortunate to be in Fiorentina. I observed how the Italians do their work. I took some kids from the US on trial there, and some of them made it and signed professional contracts eventually. And I was able to be immersed in that as well. And then between them and Dinamo Zagreb, an opportunity came. So in 2014, so maybe 12 years after I started as a volunteer assistant coach at U9 Jadran Poreć, right? So
Oh,
you can,
wow.
I don't know if you can perceive how low of a level that was to begin with, but I just came to a former coach of mine in 2002 or 3, and I said, hey, I just want to be alongside you and learn and see whether I can grow some skill set during this period. And so while I was studying, learning, reading, I was also working. So I was gathering experiences. I was testing myself. I had ideas that proved to be stupid, but I tested them, and I had that experience that enriched myself. And first growth, I think, was entering professional football in Dinamo Zagreb, where I was for 3 years assistant academy director. From there, Croatian youth national teams, when I was assistant coach for 2 years, where I was kind of mixing these managerial experiences in football and coaching, and then the actual rerouting of my career from coaching that moved more into managed sports management as a sporting director in Legia Warsaw, and then Hajduk Split, etc.
So how did you ended up in Legia Warsaw? It's like one day you get a call from the president, and then we want you, Ivan.
It was exactly like that, but not really one day, but one day they called and they said, "Hey, you presented around the world. We heard about you. We are looking to do some things Dinamo Zagreb is doing. Would you be interested in meeting us?" So I did that. We met and we continued the conversation for another year. And then they said, yeah, actually, it was for the role of an academy director. And then at some moment, the opportunity arose and I turned it down. I said, I'm not ready to do that because of my commitment with Dinamo, which I had at that time. And 3 months after, they said, we're looking for a sporting director. You have some of these skills that we look to bring into our club, and would you open to have this conversation? So I did that, and as I said, I think is a little bit of hand of God. Is kind of God looking at you, working hard, developing yourself, etc., and then just says, okay. I mean, I had enough of seeing you fight and struggle. You deserve some blessing, some opportunity, and it really did take my career to another level by them recognizing that I could be it.
So it's a compound effect. It's basically what people don't see is that you already been like you're starting from grassroots and you build it up over what 15 years till you actually to reach that stage. So if you look at it
Correct,
from a
correct.
logical, it's a logical step, and lucky enough it was in an amazing club. So it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I would say, when people would say, if you look at a snapshot, you could maybe compare it to. I think I read it somewhere in a book about pushing a large stone, and as you start pushing, you need an incredible amount of energy to make it roll, and it barely moves. So you could have a lot of people who tell you that, look, you're wasting yourself, you're investing a lot of energy, and the stone barely moved by an inch. And then that force starts rolling and rolling and rolling, and then maybe 10 years after, a snapshot could be taken in which you're just pushing a stone with your fingers without applying a lot of force, but the stone is rolling because of all of that force that you've put in it already before. Um, so I kind of look at the growth of anything in any profession that kind of is equivalent to that it requires an incredible amount of energy, commitment, passion, drive, time to be put and invested into it, and maybe for super small gains that are still invisible. And then if you just look at the picture 10 or 15 years after, it's going to look like it was an easy peasy thing because you are doing it effortlessly and it's rolling already. So 15 years after, it looked like that like nothing, it fell from the sky for you. But in reality, I think you were just equipping yourself and you're putting all that energy into the industry, into the skill set, into the work, into your relationships, networking, etc. That then ends up looking like a hand of God, that I like to call it.
And then the hand of God strike again, and then Brentford fell out of the sky. One of the most amazing, exciting clubs in the world at the moment. An amazing project, an amazing philosophy. It's I don't know if many people know, but just the club in general is unbelievable what they did and what they built in the last 7-8 years. And you have been part of the journey. In what role? How was that? The president called you again. Hello, Ivan. Come by, or what was it?
Actually, no. I met their CEO Rasmus Ankerson at an event. I think was in London while I was in Legia, actually, and we just had a nice conversation and hit it off. And when there was an opening for a technical director role, somebody recommended me to him to further explore it. He had a familiar face. He knew who I was, so I was invited for a first interview, and did that. And the funny thing is that I didn't get the job that they were hiring for. It was me and six other Englishmen, and I wasn't hired to be a technical director. Actually, they diminished the role to a head of recruitment, and I can't say that they missed because Lee, who got the job, actually took them to the Premier League, and congrats to him. But they said like you have a skill set that could be helpful for us in this area. So in area of recruitment for Midtjylland and Brentford, and I had a consultancy agreement with them for some time. But more important for me was to learn about how Brentford worked from inside a little bit, meet the people, get into the network. The experience of the interview was great. Learning about Smart Odds and the owner's company of how they do things. How they as a club operate in a different way, I would say, how brave they are in exploring certain things that most clubs don't do. Most clubs don't follow. I think that this this air and philosophy from the ownership with Brentford, and I think Brighton has a similar background with the owner's philosophy penetrating the club, is being brave, doing what nobody else is doing, because them in their experience in the gambling industry is exactly how they're successful. They are betting on what nobody else is betting on. So and they took that spirit and that knowledge about data and analytics into the football clubs, and I think brought some really smaller clubs, what Brentford traditionally has been, into the heights of the Premier League, and I think Brighton is operating um, in a similar fashion, in a similar philosophy, and that's why overachieving, in my opinion.
Okay, fast forwarded. You've had the role as sporting director at a club where we both share time, Hajduk Split.
Yeah,
And after that, you more or less rolled into and I never really understood it, and I would like to ask you about it. You became a football consultant. What can you tell me about that role as a football consultant? Because I saw you did it at Hibernians in Scotland.
yeah,
You're involved with a Hungarian club and a club in Serbia that overachieved this year, Backa Topola, if I pronounce it
correct.
correctly.
Yes,
So my
yeah.
question is, what is a football consultant? I mean, what does a day of a football consultant look like?
I think it was COVID that gave the opportunity to make a lot of the football industry's jobs, not just football industry, but every industry in the world became more able to be done online and from distance. And I think a lot of jobs have moved in that direction to work from home. And my first experience with that was at Hibernian, where I took the role as head of recruitment, and was doing that under sporting director Graham Matthew until he left the club. But I never ended up going to Edinburgh because I should have been quarantined for 2 weeks. So that provided an opportunity to develop the skills of cooperating and working together, even from distance. Then that moved into an opportunity to work in Sarajevo, where I didn't see myself as a sporting director to move there, but the owner was a good guy, good friend who I wanted to help out. So really, in my consultancy work now, I am trying to employ sporting directors or educate whoever they have in a more planning, strategic thinking, bring my own network to the table, develop skill set of people who are in the sports management of the club. So right now, my full focus is on Backa Topola because it requires that amount of time and effort. I was also involved with Minnesota in MLS, which I was a regional scout for them here for the Balkans, which also helped me improve myself because I've learned the way an MLS team thinks, develops the budget, distributes it. What's a U22 initiative, what's a DP, what's a TAM, etc., etc. Quite many specifics of that market. So I consider myself rich in experiences because I was able to connect some of these things, and I'm happy that I'm able to grow the clubs also through this type of a role through other people not me directly being a sporting director, which I think eventually I will be again, likely at some other place. But until that moment comes, I enjoy it because it also gives me good life balance and flexibility with my family. As I said, that takes priority.
So you're a sporting director slash sporting director educator, more or less, at this stage. Is that the right way to say it?
Yes, yes. Also, I do teach at Real Madrid Master Program for the past, I think 9 or 10 years now.
Hmm.
And 3 years ago, we started a sporting director course that myself and a fellow colleague, Chris Doherty, who we developed basically the material and for a sporting director unit. So it's something that I think is quite unique in the world. There is not that many programs out there that we actually had to develop from scratch some literature, some materials, some even topics that you as a sporting director try to approve and make it as applicable as possible to reality. Because formal education is fantastic, often can be too theoretical. When you apply your real world events to it, then and merge it together with the theory, it can be quite powerful and educationally, I think, can add to people's growth.
And what defines a good sporting director or a director of football in your opinion?
Um, like you mentioned the two words, right? I think the terms are interchangeable and used in different countries, in different clubs, in different ways. I think technical director is also another one that is maybe interchangeable. Um, some clubs with bigger structures have, more of it. They have a sporting director and a technical director, or a director of football and a technical director. So it really depends on how big the club is and how it's distributing its jobs. So the sporting director really is a person, I would say, underneath the CEO or the board who manages the club as an organization. And the sporting director is the person that I would say maybe closest to a vice president or something underneath a vice president in charge of sport that covers all the details in organizing a football department. So um, that could entail first team. Could likely is in all of my jobs as a sporting director. Also had an academy director underneath myself, a scouting team within the first team. For example, in Legia, we had I think 21 members of staff. So
Wow.
coach, kit managers, assistant coaches, fitness coaches, physios, doctors, nutritionists, team managers, player liaison, etc., etc. So can be quite a voluminous. Just in the first team, you can have 20 plus people that you're managing, and you're trying to manage all the processes that are there amongst the people. And then if you're fortunate to have a good scouting and recruitment team, you could have a head of recruitment that I was fortunate to have at Legia, that kind of takes a little bit away that part of the job dealing with the outside for you, and that has a scouting team, and that scouting team can be uh, you know managed in a way that serves the club's recruitment purposes. Whereas my experience in Hajduk, for example, was more on as a sporting director, you need to create money so that we can survive on the market and see with which players you could develop internally that could be presentable to the outside market. Especially in the COVID year, a lot of clubs were in a lot of distress, financially, economically, and part of that also hit Hajduk. And in that moment, my experience was not even as a sporting director in Hajduk; it was director of finance or main sponsor or whoever, because that was the only revenue stream that was still feeding the club. So you could have different roles as a sporting director and different experiences in different types of clubs of what your actual job is, and you can also have people with different backgrounds serve it differently. Um, you know, there's sporting directors like myself that come from coaching background and academy director role that are more prone to growing young players, creating opportunities for them, etc. And then you have sporting directors that come from maybe an agent or that type of a background, which you're more on the market, or come from a scouting background, where you're really more looking for players outside of your club and bringing them into your team rather than developing them internally. So I think also the club should be picking a sporting director based on their needs and their actual reality, because different sporting directors could also have different strengths in what they're able to do.
So, which is then a sporting director which you admire, and and what would you say, like, which sporting director I should interview for my next director of football show? Who is the person that you admire?
Yeah. Well, look, I can I know some personally that I think definitely would be worthwhile your time. I can have a wealth of experience to share with, like maybe Mads Davidson is a name that comes to my head. He's a Danish guy that runs a very interesting project in Nordsjælland, and their group. They're now stretching themselves from Ghana to Denmark to Egypt, and with a MLS franchise, as far as I know. So that's a guy that I think highly of. That actually is, I think, also director of football for a group. So he
I
is
bought
also
his book.
employing other sporting directors. There you
I
go.
bought
There you go.
his
So
book.
so you
I
will
bought his
know
book.
that.
I
Bravo,
follow
bravo. I
him.
think it'll be worthwhile your time, and to hear from him, because has worked internationally and abroad, and is a genuinely good person that is open to sharing his ideas. I think some big names that are out there: Victor Orta, Monchi, or guys like Walter Sabatini, or top level, sporting directors who have been running clubs for many years, that I don't know personally, but something that I would be happy to hear from them in your show, uh, about their experiences, their growth, their ideas, to improve myself. You mentioned the book that myself and my former colleague Romeo Yozak wrote together. We have 140 references in it, and I like to say these are 140 people, or work of people who were smarter than myself or than us, and that we use their knowledge to improve us and to improve our book. Hence, I would like to continue learning from other people who have been in the industry and have grown over the years and have experiences to share.
I bought that book as well. I Only thing I can say to that is,
Seems like you're
yeah,
you're on the you're on the right path, because I remember the time when I was buying every book that was available, and that could help me grow.
um, well, we all love a good story. In your journey as a sporting director, what is a funny or crazy story that you can tell us about? I mean, we have one together. I still owe you how you call it, a box of Panadol, which I will give you if I will meet you. But is there some funny story that you can share with our viewers that I don't know? I spoke to some other people and they have funny stories, and you can't believe it's too crazy to be true. Do you have one you can
Yeah, yeah.
share?
Sometimes. Yeah, I remember the time actually that you brought up our conversations in Hajduk. We were looking for a right back, and at that time we had a first pick. He was a Spanish international out of Espanyol, called Pipa, and I was speaking with his agent, and then we had a Zoom call with the player, and he liked the project a lot. It stretched the boundaries of my Spanish, but I pushed it just to show to him that we are that I'm gonna stretch myself, as a person to accommodate him and make him feel well in Split. And he chose to go to Huddersfield instead, and it was too bad. The boy, I think, did really, really well, and he chose the right step in his career. I think he's playing in Olympiacos now. But maybe a year after, his agent calls me and he said, that time Pipa told me that he was flipping a coin whether it's going to be Hajduk or Huddersfield. So he he was that was the way that he couldn't decide where he was going to go because that was a big championship club, and we were an aspiring club in Croatian league and playing in Europe. We contested Galatasaray that season, and his decision ended up going on a flip of a coin. And I'm happy that the boy's career has gone well, and that in that flip of a coin, it blessed him with good career choices. I cannot say that it wouldn't have been if it came to us, because I think he had quality. He still has. But it was funny to hear that was what was determining factor, with all the other details that come into play, contract length and how much are you paying him and what you're paying to the club and what you're negotiating. So many elements that it ended up being on a flip of a coin, that he chose that step in his career. So it's
That's
possible,
funny,
it
man.
happens.
That's amazing. So my final two questions for today. As an ex goalkeeper, um, my question I have for you is like, who is the best goalkeeper you ever signed or regret not signing? And then in the same time, I'll ask you my final question. It is why, in your opinion, Livakovic never signed abroad after 8 years playing full seasons at Dinamo, being part of two World Cup squads, playing in the Champions League. Okay, my opinion is that there's a lack of goalkeeper education in Croatia in general. That's my perception. But obviously, you are a guest. You are the specialist. I mean, you're much more experienced and knowledgeable than myself. So I would like to hear yeah, your answers on this one.
Um, yeah, actually, now that you bring up the specialist, I would actually tell you that I'm far from a specialist in anything with goalkeepers. I think that my strength as a sporting director should be to be knowing enough about specialist jobs like a goalkeeping coach job in order to hire the best one possible that knows way more than me. So uh, that's how I view special type of knowledge, and I think that you, with your background and expertise in training goalkeepers, are way ahead than I could ever be. And actually, I never had to sign a goalkeeper, number one goalkeeper. So we were always, I think, when I was in Hajduk, we were looking at a backup option that we ended up promoting a young player to. But whenever I was picking a goalkeeper, I was mostly relying on the goalkeeper's coach evidence, and his view of what could fit within our style of play, what could fit within our role, what could fit within our locker room, because it's a big thing whether you're signing a number one or a number two. Um, like just a few weeks ago, we signed in Backa Topola, a goalkeeper that came to us from a rival team, and we wanted a specific type of a goalkeeper. So we have a young 2003 who is number one in goal, who we don't want to stop his trajectory from growing. So we have to pick a guy who is willing to be number two, who is willing to push the number one, and patient until the number one goalkeeper moves on. So you require a specific set of qualities that are beyond what you would see on the pitch, but you actually are looking at human qualities. Could they fit for you internally within your team? So in that sense, really, I don't really have a story to share about a goalkeeper on a top level that I wanted to sign, because I was mostly promoting young players. Like Majecki in Legia was a project that I was opening doors to. He was sold to Monaco a year and a half ago, a year and a half after that, for 7 million. So for me, making a pathway for him was something that I found was more important than signing a goalkeeper from outside. And we were building a pathway for him of like, hey, the goalkeeper number one is a veteran. Let's extend his contract. He's going to play this many games this fall, this many games this spring, and then the young boy should be able to pick it up in the springtime as a full time, and we develop value like that. It didn't. I wasn't long enough in Legia to live all of that, but I was very happy to see the boy move to Monaco a year and a half later and actually fulfill his potential and growth. When it comes to Livakovic, in my opinion, is a goalkeeper for a top five league, no brainer. But I do think, and experiencing the way the goalkeeper market is that simply it's a very difficult marketplace to be in. And as an agent of a goalkeeper, as a club who is looking to sell a goalkeeper, I'm now very cognizant of that for our Backa Topola goalkeeper, Veljko Ilic, who is also attracting attention internationally. It's just the demand for goalkeepers is just not as large on the international market, for one. Number two, I think that Livakovic has had a very good club in which he's in with Dinamo Zagreb, and the experiences that he was having playing Champions League continuously, playing Europa League, being on the international stage, a good stable contract, a good stable club, a good stable position that really hasn't forced him to seek an opportunity just to leave Dinamo. So I think he was quite picky over the past years. Definitely, he could have been in a top five league 3 years ago, last year as well. And I know that now there's clubs that would want to take him, that you would say, hey, these are next level clubs. But I also think that he is picking the step for himself as the right next step that he deserves, because he also wants to take his next career step carefully. Uh, Maybe he could tomorrow be in a top club in the world, like a United or a Real Madrid, and be a backup. And you would think, do I really want that for my career? Should I rather wait for the right opportunity at a mid-table top five league club where I could continuously be the number one, continue being number one for Croatia, which is important to him, uh, and maybe improve my wages as well, which in professional world is also a natural inclination, and a new challenge where he can actually be important rather than be an irrelevant part of a huge club. That experience maybe is not so desirable for him. So hopefully that sheds light a little bit of how I see his situation and in general the goalkeeper situation. And I would not say that it's particular for him, but if you think about what is the market for Livakovic this summer, you have to look at, okay, what level club can pay what Dinamo wants to be paid for him, what level club actually has that money, what level club can pay his salary, what level club is an attractive club, and what level league is an attractive league for him. And you would probably narrow down the list for him to, 5, 7, or 10 teams in the whole Europe. So looking at it from that perspective, now you have to, out of these 10 teams, in which ones see Livakovic as their number one pick, fitting in style of play, age, experience, language, etc., etc. I don't know. A lot of teams will tell you, I want a local speaker in goal for adaptation reasons, for just conformity, discussing with the back line, etc., etc. So commanding the back line. So I would say you very quickly come down that for Livakovic this summer is probably between 3 and 5 teams is his real market, where he needs to take his step forward. He can probably go to another 20 teams, but that's probably like a side move for him. Maybe he shouldn't pursue it.
Ivan, thank you very much for your time here at the Director of Football Show. I hope we can continue our conversation in person one day, if God allows me to visit your facilities or to visit you, hopefully at your next club, wherever that will be in the world. But for sure, it will be something amazing in your already amazing journey. Thanks again for being part of the show. I really appreciate your time and effort today, and your answers blew me away. It was very informing. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me, and I hope that sharing some of my experiences can enrich the experience of you and your viewers. And definitely when you're in Croatia next, let me know. We'll be happy to grab a coffee or lunch together.
Puno hvala, ja ću ti nazovem preko mobitel.
Može, hvala ti. Bog, bog.